okay, we all know who the cream of the crop is in the NFC North. No one's going to argue it's the Green Bay Packers. It's been the Green Bay Packers for the last decade, Reggie. I know you haven't been around here in Minnesota forever, but it's always going into the season. It's who can take down the Packers, if anybody, as long as Aaron Rodgers is around. But with the crazy offseason, the Packers, I mean, they got plenty of new faces in the mix, along with the Detroit Lions and Chicago Bears, both respectively, got a little bit better this offseason. Let's start here, Reggie. When looking at the landscape of this division now, as we sit here today, the offseason's gone, the draft dust has settled. At first glance, where do you think the Vikings fit inside the NFC North?
I think if the Packers are 1A, the Vikings are 1B. I think they're right up there. You know, you look at some of the moves that they made, you know, everybody's talking about how they, you know, quote unquote, are running it back. But it's like running what back? Because you don't want to see them do what they did last year. But you talk about the defensive pieces that they added, you know, how they're going to get Danielle Hunter back. And, you know, they got Lewis Seen in the draft, Andrew Booth Jr., if he can get healthy. You think about the type of corner that he can be. New defense getting installed with Ed Donatel, Mike Pettin. And I think it's going to be scary hours seeing Danielle Hunter on one side and Za'Darius Smith on the other side, rushing the passer, standing up and knowing that those guys are coming off the edge. And you got Horrible Harry and Dalvin Tomlinson, those big dudes just kind of wreaking havoc in the inside on the defense. Like that's gonna be something to see. That's gonna be something, especially week 1 when they're coming after the Packers. Like I'm expecting them to get after it. Those guys look really good yesterday when I was at OTAs, and I know it's just OTAs and there's not much you can really glean too much from, you know, just glorified, like it's almost like glorified flag football or something like that. But like the team looked good. Like Danielle looks healthy and hungry, and so does Za'Darius Smith. He looks healthy, hungry, and motivated. And I'm looking forward to seeing what this team does. And look at what I just mentioned. I didn't say anything about the offense yet. And that's what most people are looking at with Kevin O'Connell coming in. You know, I think what's cool is, you know, we were talking to Kirk Cousins yesterday, and he was talking about having to learn the offense. You forget, or you may forget, that like Cousins was in Kevin O'Connell's offense already before when he was in Washington. Sean McVay was his offensive coordinator. You know, Kevin O'Connell was his QB coach. Like, this is the same offense. But he talked about how it just kind of evolved, how it's a different offense because, you know, it's kind of been put in the washer and put in the dryer a little bit. You know, it's been blended up in the blender a little bit. And you know, some of the terminology is different. You know, the concepts are kind of, you know, the same, but it's evolved a little bit. He talked about how now he has to get back to flashcards like he's back in grade school, and he's learning the offense. I think this is good for him because, you know, the last few years have kind of been chalk, kind of been status quo from him. And now this presents him with the challenge. New coaching staff. He's playing to continue to be impressed, you know, to impress them and earn some more money, you know, because they only really committed to him for like another year. And so now he's got to show and prove, like, hey, look at me, like I'm good here, like we can win together. And so I think with the motivation from Kirk in the offense and, you know, the new scheme and how Kevin O'Connell is going to put them in a position to really take advantage, and some of the pieces that have been added on defense, I think that they are going to be right up there with the Packers. I don't know what to expect from the Bears. And, you know, the Lions are going to be improved, but they still have Jared Goff as quarterback. Dan Orlovsky had the dude at number 30 or something like that in the league. Or was it Chris Sims had him at number 30 in the league as far as like quarterback
not bad.
standings.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
Yikes.
You know, I mean, there's only 2 worse than him. And so I think I think it's going to be interesting. I think the Lions are definitely going to be more competitive. And shoot, they were already competitive with the Vikings last year. Almost beat them once, and then did beat them in Detroit for their first win of the season. So that was embarrassing enough. But I think, the Bears are going to be improved. The Lions are going to be much improved. The Packers are going to be solid. But then you look at how they don't necessarily have their receiving core figured out. And, Rodgers is not at OTAs right now. So, he's not really getting that time in with the new guys that he's going to be throwing the ball to. So you don't really know what to expect from that offense. Maybe they could be a run heavy offense with Dillon and Jones. You don't know. But I think that gives you confidence as a Vikings fan that they are going to be competing for that top spot in that division next season.
Yeah, I got a spicy take coming up for the Bears here in a few minutes. The Lions, I go ebbs and flows with the Lions, man. After what they did to the Vikes last year, we almost got swept by the Lions for the first time in 15 years, man. What Dan Campbell has done inside that locker room and to those guys, man, it scares me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. And then I start to get a little worried.
Biting them kneecaps off.
They had the number 2 overall pick, Aiden Hutchinson. They trade with us and go get just a firework in Jamison Williams. And then I start to calm myself down and I look at the stats from last year, nearly bottom 5 in defense in nearly every category. And is a guy like Aiden Hutchinson enough? I mean, it's going to help a lot. Him and Josh Pascal from Kentucky, their 3rd-round pick, that's going to help a lot. I mean, it all starts in the trenches, but is that enough to really elevate that defense into the realm of, being competitive week in and week out, keeping your offense in games, forcing more 3-and-outs? I really love what Dan Campbell's doing in Detroit. I thought they overachieved last year. They scared the heck out of a lot of Vikings fans, again, almost beating them 2 times in a row. But I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit on Detroit. I still think Detroit is just Detroit, and they'll end up middle of the pack somewhere. The Packers, though, you talked a lot about the Vikings offense. Let's think about the Packers offense for a second, because every year we just go in just blindly assuming Aaron Rodgers is going to be like, we think of terms in fantasy football now. Aaron Rodgers is going to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback. He's going to throw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. Well, if you look at the last few years and what the Packers have done, and especially this offseason, they get rid of Devontae Adams, maybe the best receiver in the league. Yeah. They used their first 2 draft picks on defense, Devontae Wyatt and Quay Walker, defensive tackle and a linebacker, respectively. They add a rookie to basically fill the shoes of Devontae Adams and Christian Watson from a smaller school, North Dakota State. How long is all that going to take to learn and groom him and develop and progress him to where Aaron Rodgers needs him to be? My point here is it seems like as Rodgers is getting a little long in the tooth, getting a little bit older, only a couple years left, we assume, that the Packers have taken more of a defensive identity, maybe start to run the football a little bit more, play good defense, and let's take some pressure off Aaron Rodgers here a little bit and understand that he's not the guy we just assume he still is from 10 years ago that scrambles on 3rd and 12 and gets a first down. Now, he's still Aaron Rodgers. He's still dangerous, won the MVP last year for a reason. But I think it's clear that the Packers are trying to change their identity a little bit and try to become a much more hard-nosed defensive-first football team we've assumed the last 10 years and be this high-powered offensive fireworks show and keeping up with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Rams of the NFL. That's just not what they're trying to do. Again, 2 first-round picks on defense. They just signed Jair Alexander to be the number 1 paid cornerback in the league. And then they got Rashawn Gary, who we'll get to in segment 3, who's quietly become one of the better picks of the 2019 class. He started to blow up last year as well. So it's going to be interesting to see just the identity change there a little bit from the Packers, going from what we've always seen with Rodgers to maybe a little bit more defensive focused, and then run the football with those 2 guys that you just mentioned, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. That could be their bread and butter and what we see a lot from this year. All right. We did a Twins take of the day. Let's do just one hot take from the NFC North. Give me just one hot take from the NFC North. Could be a prediction, could be a specific player, just something that kind of sticks out to you, maybe not a lot of fans are thinking about.
All right. I'll give you a couple. How about that?
Ooh, bonus.
How about that?
Okay.
Stu Gatz. How about that? How about that? No, so
Stugotz. Hold on, look at
careful over there,
Stugotz
Luke.
highlights. Yeah, okay.
No, but I think, all right, number one, I think the Vikings are going to win the division.
Ooh,
How about that? And then not only are they going to win the division, I think Justin Jefferson is going to lead the league in receiving.
wow, this is fun. This just got fun.
I see those things happening. You asked me for this hot take, okay? So look, y'all listening, don't be holding me to that. He asked me. I'm just telling him what he asked me, okay?
That's
Because
at Reggie Wilson TV
hey,
on Twitter.
hey. But as we sit here, it is May 25th, 2022. The games don't start until September. And right now, after, being at OTAs and looking at the juice that this team has, that's my hot take, baby. That's what we're gonna go with. Now ask me again tomorrow, I may tell you something different. Cause that's how hot takes roll.
I really love that. Obviously, JJ in this offense, man, everyone's saying, look at what Cooper Kupp did. Cooper Kupp became the Triple Crown winner for the Rams. Most receiving yards, touchdowns, receptions. Unbelievable. Broke so many records. Why can't JJ do that? I mean, if you were drafting a team today and I said, okay, you can have Cooper Kupp or JJ, I think 9 out of 10 people are going to take JJ. No disrespect to Cooper Kupp, maybe the best route runner in the league, but JJ just gives you that explosiveness and home run threat every time he touches the ball. So when you see him in this new offense, Kevin O'Connell's offense, what he did with Cooper Kupp, I mean, yeah, it's a hot take for sure, but I mean, I'm going to have a hard time believing that JJ's not in, if healthy, plays the full slate, not in the top 5 in multiple receiving categories when it's all said and done. My spicy take, I think the Chicago Bears are picking in the top 5 next year, if not even the top 3. I'm looking at this roster. Are you telling me you got rid of Allen Robinson and your big prized free agent acquisition that we're going to go get a big prize for it. We're going to go help out Justin Fields here, develop from year 1 to year 2. It's so important to get him weapon. Is Byron Pringle? Like, no disrespect.
Once you pop, the fun don't stop, man.
Man, he's got a lot of high expectations for sure with Justin Fields, and I just feel like they're doing him a disservice here. You use 2 first-round picks, trade up and go get him. And the talent you've put around him is just so weak, man. Come on. Cole Kmet, all right, I like it. Solid tight end, grooming, young, developing. This offensive line, man, the surface fan couldn't name one of these offensive linemen starting for the Chicago Bears. That's a recipe for disaster. He was pressured top 3 or top 5 most in the NFL last year. That's a recipe for disaster for a young, developing quarterback. Byron Pringle, St. Brown, and Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney's got the goods. But I don't know if he's going to be a guy that, can register 140, 150 targets, stay healthy for a full slate, and be around for Justin Fields. David Montgomery, solid. Defense, yeah, Chicago's always known for defense. They should have a top 15, top 12 defense. But, I mean, you used all your assets on Justin Fields. You had no early draft picks. They should have had the 7th overall draft pick. That would have been a blue chip player. They gave that away for Fields. They settled on Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker from Penn State, the safety. So they had some good pieces, but I'm looking at this roster top to bottom, man. I think it's got to be one of the 5 worst rosters in the league. So you look at what the Vikings have done, the Packers are going to continue to do, and even the Lions with Dan Campbell getting better, they may go 0-6. I mean, they may struggle to get 1 win in this division alone. We'll see how it all shakes out. That's my spicy take, though. Chicago Bears picking top 5 next year. Yeah, go ahead.
And you know what's interesting about that is it kind of lets you see just how tough of a job that was when the GM came in.
That's a great point.
Like that. You're talking about.
This is a 3-4 year job here, man. This is not just worst to first here, overnight. Well, I got no draft picks either. You're killing me.
Got a new head coach, got a new GM, and he took that job, seemingly. We still don't know how it all played out, but took that job seemingly over the Vikings job. And that was what he wanted. That's what he hitched his wagon to. And so, when you look at it, when you look at the type of moves that were made, they could have tried to re-sign Allen Robinson to, keep a great receiver with Justin Fields, but they didn't do that. And they didn't really draft guys that, you know, were come in day one making impact guys with Justin Fields. And what's going to be tough is, like, you know, the run game should be solid. You know, got Montgomery, and you hope that, you know, the run game is going to just kind of help stabilize the offense. But, like, when you look at it and you don't necessarily have all those, like, top flight weapons, you know, in a division where you got guys like St. Brown and Jamison Williams, JJ Thielen, KJ Osborne, and, you know, you got, I guess, Randall Cobb, and, you know, whoever the
Sammy
heck
Watkins,
Aaron Rodgers is going to be. Yeah,
yep.
Sammy Watkins, you don't know what he's going to be if he can stay healthy. You know, you got people all around that division that are going to be making plays for their offense. And you look at them, and nobody on that offense really scares you, I guess, other than Fields with what he can do. But what is kind of tough is when you have a young quarterback, usually you're trying to make things easier for him. And what I can kind of see happening is Justin Fields really trying to do too much because he doesn't have enough help. And I think that, you know, it's tough to call it an indictment on the Bears. I think the Bears front office did the best that they could considering the circumstances that they kind of like inherited. But this is going to be a little bit of a struggle year trying to like get things on track. And maybe you know, if you're looking at the Bears from a long-term view, maybe next season, not this upcoming season, but the season after that is when they finally get some weapons for Fields and when they finally do some things to get them over the top. But this is not going to be a team that's going to be really expected to compete this season.
I mean, coaching matters, the schedule. There's so many variables. Ultimately, though, it comes down to your talent. And I'm just looking, again, just pull up the roster and just look at, you know, 5 other random rosters. It's got to be one of the worst in the league. It's unbelievable. They're starting 5 offensive linemen. I don't know if they would be starting on any other team. Cody Whitehair's legit. He's a great interior left guard. But besides that, they used a second-round pick from Oklahoma State on Tevin Jenkins last year. He was up and down. To give you an idea, they have Dakota Dozier, basically the Vikings backup, who started from time to time. He struggled as well when he did play. And if they're relying on names like that, I just feel bad for Justin Fields because he's not being put in a position to succeed. They're not setting him up for success by any other means.